Well, welcome back to Marlboro, the New England Sports Center. Paul McNamara here with you all day long. We've got one more game on Rink 1. We've got the Westford Grey Ghosts and the Natick Redhawks will be coming your way in a few minutes. But right now it's our pleasure to host Jim Clark in the slot, the guy that knows more about high school hockey than anybody in this building. And Clarky, this is the unofficial New Year's Day of high school hockey in Massachusetts.
New Year's Day, Christmas Day, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's a long event. It's actually not that long. They really compressed the schedule this year with the 8 rinks. But they've made a little bit of a challenge to try to get around and see all of the action. It's almost impossible on a day like this. But you just try to get a feel for everything as best as you can. It
is impossible, and but it is great to have a lot of the champions from last year here. Earlier we saw a nice matchup, Arlington High and St. Mary's, and they were the respective Super 8 champs and Division I champs last year in the state. So it's great seeing those guys. And then we've got, you were just mentioning, you're headed over for a 3:20 puck drop between Lowell Catholic and Scituate, two teams that met in the Garden last year in the D2 state championship.
Yeah, I mean, they just do a tremendous job. You're getting, you know, you find most of the power teams will be coming out here from year to year, and then you sprinkle in some different teams every once in a while. Scituate has been in and out the last couple of years. Lowell Catholic, I know, has been a regular here. Then you get your usual Super 8 contenders, like you said, Arlington and St. Mary's. I watched about a period of Malden Catholic and Port Francis earlier today. That was a pretty good battle. MC winning 1-0, I guess, on a goal later in the second period. John McGuire and his staff just do a phenomenal job matching these teams up. I know I was talking to Brandon earlier, and I know some coaches request who they want to play from year to year. They try to avoid certain teams, but they do their best to match skill level with skill level. You know, it's not always easy to do with 70 teams, but and then you just get, you know, certain coaches are using this event for different reasons. So you know, it's not always easy to. Everyone always asks me, well, who have you seen? You know, what do you think and all that, and it's hard to tell. You're a week into the season. Some teams still haven't made cuts yet. Some teams are still trying to find line combos. Still doing tryouts, and some of them. So you just try to get the best feel that you can for you know, as many teams as you can.
Yeah, and it does bring up a good point. I mean, we look at the rosters that we get handed just in this one out of 8 ranks, and you see some familiar names, but then you see some teams that you go, wow, I remember that player. He was a good player, and he was only a junior, and he's not here. You know, teams like Marshfield lost 2 or 3 kids that have gone on and 1 to juniors, I heard, and a couple of prep schools. And it happens every year to a bunch of teams, and that sort of opens some eyes on a day like today as well.
Yeah, I was talking to one coach earlier. I won't name which team, but you know, divulge his secrets. But he was saying he actually got a couple kids back from juniors, and now tomorrow he's going to have a tough conversation in the locker room with a couple of his kids who had jerseys last year, who might not have them this year. You know, and it's obviously that's a good situation for a coach to have, but it's not a good situation because you'd hate to have to tell a kid in high school hockey these days that he might not be able to make the team. But you know, such is the case. But yeah, you're right. You just, you know, juniors, you know, pulling kids in different directions. Prep schools pulling kids in different directions. You just never know who's going to be back from one year to the next. So you just kind of evaluate it and you look at the rosters and, you know, try to sort it all out as best you can before the puck drops for real sometime later this week.
So we got a couple of minutes now before this game starts, but what is your expertise so early in the season? Any hints on, other than the usual suspects, who might be strong, whom the teams will be, whom the pundits will be saying these are the teams to beat this year?
I think usual suspects. I think a lot of the teams that you saw, a couple of the teams you saw at the Garden last year, you know, obviously Arlington should be strong. They lost a good senior class, but they'll be strong again. I'm hearing good things about Central Catholic. I think they'll be strong again. You know, obviously Malden Catholic, ECI, Pope Francis, those teams are always going to be good again. You know, is Hingham going to be strong again? You know, they had a little bit of a tough run with Zavarian over here on Rink 1 earlier today. You know, Zavarian's an interesting team. You know, they'll battle through the Catholic Conference this year. St. John's Prep, we haven't seen them here in several years, but you know that they're going to, you know that they got going on up there in Danvers, so they'll be tough again. Now some of those public schools leagues, you know, Burlington should be good. I just watched a little bit of Braintree against Arlington Catholic. They'll be solid again.
So it's the usual suspects.
The usual suspects. I don't think anyone really is going to come out and, you know, surprise anyone. Maybe like Walpole did last year. You know, they obviously.
And again, Walpole benefited from a couple of guys coming back.
Exactly. And, you know, phenomenal goalie in James Corcoran, who's now playing up at the Winchendon School. So I don't, but you don't know. I mean, who saw Walpole coming last year? Nobody really did.
Nobody.
Until midway through the season, all of a sudden you look down and like, oh wow, this team is 12-0. You know.
Just to follow up on one thing you said, the Middlesex League is strong, and like you said, Braintree and Hingham down south are always going to contend, and the Catholic Conference, of course. Xaverian has opened my eyes a little bit today, not just from what they did here today. You beat Hingham 4-1. I mean, there are a lot of factors that come into play, but 4-1 in a setup like this opens your eyes against a good team. And the reports were they were in a kind of a round robin yesterday, and they beat Central Catholic 1-0 and lost to Austin Prep 1-0. So all of a sudden, Xaverian we're here for real.
Right. Yeah, I wish I had gotten up to that Limitless Hockey Invitational they put together last night up at the Ice Center up in Salem, New Hampshire, because it sounded like a really good event. Like you said, Walden Catholic, Central Catholic were up there, Xaverian and Austin Prep, 4 really good, solid Catholic programs that you know are going to be contenders, in some shape or form this season. And again, like we were saying earlier, you don't know which teams are rolling 5-6 lines out there. Still have 80 kids that they haven't made roster cutdowns or anything like that. So you take it with a grain of salt. But at least, like we were saying, you get a feel for which kids are still around, which kids are going to be out there on the ice, and who the faces are going to be to watch, and you go from there.
Well, things kick off for real in about a week and a half. It used to be the weekend, which this year would be the 15th, 16th, used to be sort of the unofficial starting when games count, but a couple of coaches today said they have a game on the 14th or the 13th, and I think Natick and Framingham play on the 9th next Saturday, and that's an official game.
It's not a full schedule, but there are games going on next Saturday, and I know there's an event down to Kennedy Rink down in Hyannis at St. John Paul, which was here later today. They're hosting down there. There's a few teams going on there. There were actually a couple games going on Friday night down. It gets earlier and earlier.
And they're trying to keep up with the prep schools.
Not easy for those of us who are still trying to, write our previews into next week. So, but it's fun. What else are we going to be doing?
Exactly. Jim Clark in the slot at the Herald. Stay tuned to In the Slot all season long to see what's going on around the local ponds, as you say, Jim, and always great to see you around the rink, and we really appreciate your accessibility to My Hockey Live because it adds a lot to the fans.
Well, it's great having me. I appreciate you guys having me, and you guys do a tremendous job. I sit in the office on the nights that I'm not able to get to the rink, and I pop on the screen and I catch a little bit of the action, or I watch some of the replays and all. I appreciate what you guys are doing too.
Our pleasure. We'll see you soon. Jim Clark in the slot from the Herald with us from the 10th Garret Reagan Summit in Marlborough. Right now we're going to kick it over to Brendan Hall because they're underway in the next game, and Jimmy Murphy. They're underway, Natick and Westford Academy out on Rink 1.